Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. We're in the zone. It's Pete. It's Rich. We're in it. We're in the zone. It's Thursday. It's a rainy day outside, but we're going to be able to have some great information for you today. There's so much going on in the basketball world right now. We want to start off with a little bit of controversy that has emerged on the scenes. And since now I have donned a little bit of a journalist hat here in my undertakings and in the zone, and Pete has been a great mentor and a great teacher for me, I wanted to jump into this controversy because I think we have to support each other in this a little bit. And so Outkick got into a little bit of controversy this week, and it wasn't their controversy. It kind of got brought to them. You got to back up a little bit because one of their reporters asked Dawn Staley a question related to transgender players in college athletics, and Dawn Staley answered the question eloquently. But then Outkick's press pass for the WNBA draft was pulled.
Ooh.
And so, not cool, not good. I'm 100% with Outkick on this completely. You can't just pull stuff because you disagree with it. That's not what this country's founded on. That's not how we got to where we are today with all of the freedom and all the liberties that we enjoy.
Well, and it's a legitimate issue right now.
It's First Amendment. That's why they call it the First Amendment. It's
right.
The most important amendment. We have to be able to speak with each other, Pete. We have to be able to communicate with each other.
I mean, I understand that. I saw the answer, and I understand Dawn Staley was put on the spot, and her pause spoke volumes to me. If you see the context of the answer, she paused for a good 3 seconds. Like she was thinking, okay, which way do I go with this? Do I answer it how I really think, or do I answer it how I should think?
So I guess the question would be, do you think, and you've been in this business a lot longer than I am, I think tough questions are okay, but do you think the question was appropriate?
For the spot, yeah, because as women's basketball on the collegiate and now WNBA with Caitlin Clark is hitting its zenith and they're outdrawing the men, that could all be torpedoed in a New York Minute should the men start playing in the women's basketball. Or should men claiming to be or identifying as women start taking over women's basketball? That's a legitimate question.
I think it is. I think it was a legitimate question, and I think the fact that they pulled their pass, it just kind of speaks volumes to where we are right now in terms of our level to communicate with each other. And my new saying for a lot of people is, it's tough to talk a bulldog off a pork chop.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I spend a lot less time arguing with people, but I just wanted to, Dawn Staley's very well paid as a basketball coach. Over $3 million a year. A lot of the basketball coaches on the men's side are very well paid. I think you can take a tough question every once in a while.
Yeah,
without resorting to that type of tactic.
And so, but
the question, it's one thing, but
in that realm, did the NCAA pull the press pass or did WNBA? Because it wasn't Dawn giving out the press pass, right?
No. It
was the NCAA or WNBA pulling it, right?
But she had nothing to do with it.
Well,
you assume.
You assume that she complained about it.
She's very powerful. I don't necessarily know that she did complain about it, although that wouldn't stop other people from complaining about it for her.
True.
In today's day and age.
True. Yeah,
everybody's looking for that moment. But I thought it was okay. I just, thought we'd start off there because I think, regardless, there is no arbiter of that. There is no arbitrator of that who gets to say what, yes, you do say and what you don't say.
Right.
There is no arbiter of that. And although people want to try and be the arbiter of that right now, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. Okay, so it's a little bit of a situation here where you have a Groundhog Day, that I'm calling it, where LeBron showed his shadow and took 2 offensive fouls in a playoff game, took 2 charges in a playoff game, laying his body on the line, showing how much he wanted to advance into that next round. I really thought it was interesting that a great player like that in today's day and age, when it really came time, when it really came down to it, he's stepping in a lane and he's taking charges. And I just wanted to shout out to LeBron James because that doesn't happen all the time in the NBA. And now you know the playoffs are on. That's how we signify it. It's Groundhog Day. We
Right.
saw 2 charges from LeBron. Now you know the playoffs have started. Celtics, overall, unbelievable season for them. Great year. And a credit to Coach Mazzulla, who was our coach of the year in the zone, but also a credit to the team. One of the reasons for their success is their defense of the great Boston Garden. 37-4 this year, Pete. 37-4 in the Garden. So if you bought season tickets to the Celtics this year, you did okay. You did okay. We often say on this show that this show is a bit of a basketball junkies environment, but it's also a bit of a prophecy environment where we say things and then they come true later. And we had talked about the whole issue with gambling around the game, where it is right now, how it's much too close. There's much too much proximity in the game right now for that. And what you're seeing is little by little, and it's dribs and drabs, they're letting it out because this is bad for the brand. And
Yeah.
when things are bad for the brand, they have a tendency to keep them under wraps. They have a tendency to algorithmically keep it under wraps so that they don't get knocked into the oblivion like they possibly should be. Okay? But it's just way too close now. Is that the NBA has gone ahead. Jonte Porter, one of the Toronto Raptors, and in the Toronto Raptors fire sale, you might want to have traded him instead. He's given a lifetime ban for his gambling activities related to and around all of that stuff. Now,
So he was Pete Rosed.
he has been a little bit, but I want to go out on a limb here also and say that the NBA is going to have to take a different stance on this. And I think their penalty was too egregious. From what I saw that they're claiming he did, I think it's a little egregious, lifetime ban. I think he should be given a significant suspension. But I don't think that, let me ask a question. If LeBron James shows up in this same vein, are they going to give him a lifetime ban?
No, he goes a half a year, tops.
So you've set a precedent now with this. I'm understanding they want to have a good message and want to make a strong message, but I think they overreacted here. I think that this is far too egregious to give a lifetime ban. I think forgiveness is part of the human element that's really something special, and I think we should always keep that in reserve. Lifetime ban really doesn't leave a whole lot of room for forgiveness.
It should be a graduated punishment. You do it once, we slap you on the wrist and give you 20 games, half a year, something like that. You do it again, then you're toast.
And then I heard about prop bets, and I think that's dangerous. You know, when you say a player goes into a game and says, okay, there's a prop bet on him. The prop bet might say he's going to make 7 rebounds that game. He's going to grab 7 rebounds or better that game. So your bet is on under 7 or over 7. He's not going to get 7. He's going to get 8. He's going to get 9. He's going to get 4. That's your bet. That's your gamble. So you're picking either side of that binary equation.
Right.
Now, he goes out and tells all of his buddies, this is hypothetical now, because I don't think he's being accused of this, but this is where the danger lies in. He tells all of his buddies, no way 7 rebounds tonight, fellas. I'm going out in the first quarter with a hamstring injury. I don't feel good. I'm not up for this. Hey, fellas, load up on the 7. That's where it becomes really dangerous, where he's not only betting on his own stuff, but it's so easy to communicate to somebody else, hey, I'm going to shoot the 3 ball tonight till the cows come home. So I'm definitely going to make 5. You know,
But
I'm
wouldn't
gonna
Vegas put a stop to that at some point? Because they're going to lose money on. They're always trying to make the most of money that they can. And
they didn't pay one of the bets.
Oh.
They refused to pay it.
Oh.
Yeah, this is why.
Okay. Didn't know that part of
Who
it.
do you think's going to have the investigative arm here? You think the NCAA is going to do it?
No, it's going to be
No,
Vegas.
it's the casinos who
Yeah.
are getting lit up for millions of dollars like this. Of course they're going to go after them.
They don't
And
like to
From what
lose.
I know about casinos, you might want to be careful dealing with some of those people and crossing some of those people. Just saying. All right, so we're in the playoffs. Excellent. LeBron James and the Lakers were successful in beating the Pelicans. Bad news for the Pelicans. Zion Williamson, what a game he played in trying to advance. What a game he played. 40 points, 11 rebounds. He was sensational the entire night, except he grabbed a hamstring injury at the end of that game and is not going to be eligible, not going to be ready for their next playoff game, which is the elimination game. So the Lakers, as we talked about last week, move up now and become the 7th seed. And now you will see who else is left when you get the Warriors and the Kings and the Pelicans will play now. The Warriors lost to the Kings and are out. And so now the Kings will play the Pelicans. Oh, it's so confusing. And now the winner of that game will go ahead and advance. So it is what it is. But that's where the Western Conference is at right now. The Warriors are out. They're now in the lottery. Klay Thompson, terrible game. It's like I said to Pete, sometimes it's a prophecy on this show. We told you he turned to Klay, the wrong kind of Klay, and his shooting down the end of the stretch really, really hurt them. All right, so the Kings and the Pelicans, will go matched up here, and the Pelicans will go without Zion for the number 8 seed on the Western side. On the Eastern side, in the play-in, and this was decided after they did the West first and then they did the East in 2 days. A little shout out to the NBA, your executives. Gentle piece of advice here. You might want to split those games up because you could have one Western and one Eastern and one Eastern and one Western easily and not have it all on the same night. I didn't mind having it on the same night, but it would be nice to have this thing better laid out because now you're waiting to see who's going to get this 8th seed. Again, the number 1 seed has to wait the longest to see who they're going to play. Not a good format. All right, Eastern play-in, 76ers took the Heat, and that was a great game last night. 1-point game. The Heat fought it all the way down to the end. Again, like Zion Williamson, bad news for the Heat in that Jimmy Butler got hurt at the end of that game. He played all the way through the game, toughed it out, but he will not be available for their next game, which is their elimination game. And that elimination game will be against the Chicago Bulls, who were victorious by a good margin last night over the Atlanta Hawks. And so the Bulls now get to play to stay alive, and they will play the Heat. And that game will be Friday night, I believe. I don't believe there are games tonight, and I think that's part of the problem with this for me right now is that you don't have that going on right now, that nice continuity. All right, so the playoff picture is this right now. The NBA playoff picture has pretty much been established. Almost. We're still waiting on the 8th seed. So the 8th seed all the way around for only one team on either side, the Celtics and Oklahoma City Thunder, are waiting to see TBD. Who's it going to be? So who are they waiting on? Right now they've eliminated it down to 2. They can start honing in their scouting a little bit, but these teams have probably played each other quite a few times. They have quite a bunch of database on each other. So I don't know how much preparation goes in. Right now, you have the Celtics TBD. They're going to wait and they're going to see. They're going to get the winner of the game that's going to be played this week on the Eastern side. So they'll get the winner.
So that'll be a Bulls Heat Friday night at 7 p.m.
Yeah, you're going to get the winner of that game going to Celtics. And I think that's going to be a tough game. That's going to be a really tough game. Chicago looked pretty good to me last night. And the Heat without Jimmy Butler, a lot of times the team will be able to respond in a 1-game playoff. But if Jimmy Butler's out for the remainder, that's going to be really difficult in a series against the Celtics for the Heat to maintain. Watching the Heat are like a bunch of guys from West 4th Street that you're looking at and you're saying we should be killing these guys. I don't know why. We're looking at the scoreboard and you're losing all the time. They're just really efficient, really, really good. Losing Butler would be a really, really critical piece there. But I think, Chicago looked good to me last night. Billy Donovan's team looked pretty good. I think they can win that. So then you have the Knicks are going to play the 76ers. The Knicks, by virtue of the Milwaukee Bucks dropping like a stone, have now jumped into the number 2 spot in the Eastern Finals and will draw the 76ers. No bonus for the Knicks jumping in there because the Bucks moved down to the number 3 spot and they drew the Pacers. So this is life in the NBA. I think if you're one of 2 teams and you say, okay, do you want the Pacers or do you want the 76ers? Do you want to face Joel Embiid or do you want to face Tyrese Halliburton? Sixers are the hottest team in basketball right now. They've won 8 games in a row. They're on fire since the return of their big man, Joel Embiid. I don't know. That's a tough matchup for the Knicks, and I think the Bucks got a little bit lucky there, although the way that they have been playing, I would not discount the Pacers there at all. I would not discount the Pacers there at all. And then in the last round, the 4-5 game, you have Cleveland Cavaliers, who really, really fell down a lot this end of the season. They really, really moved down. We'll see it in our Power 15, how far they've moved down. And now they're going to take on the Magic. I like the Magic. I think the Magic could give the Cleveland Cavaliers a little bit of trouble. So in those last 2 right there, I might be calling a dog day afternoon there, because you might get the Pacers and the Magic might be successful there. The Bucks are playing awful right now, and Cleveland Cavaliers aren't playing much better. Move over to the west side. The Warriors are out. The Warriors are in the lottery, and you have the Thunder, OKC. What happened at the end of that season was really, really good graphically, visually for the NBA, in that you had a three-way logjam going in for the first place in the conference going into the last game of the season. So that was really, really cool. You had Oklahoma City, Denver, and Minnesota all within one range of each other. They were all locked up and ready to go. And then they had to break it out with tiebreakers and the other stuff. So Minnesota was third. Denver came second. Oklahoma City Thunder are TBD, and they're waiting on the winner of the Pelicans-Kings game. I like the Kings in that game without Zion. All right, so you got the Nuggets and the Lakers on the other side. That's a great series. Lakers are playing good basketball right now. LeBron, I don't know how he does it, but he's got a good pep in his step right now, and he's looking pretty good. Anthony Davis has been healthy the year. They've got some other pieces around there. I don't know that they have enough depth to compete with the Nuggets, although I think that will be a better series than people think, and I wouldn't sleep on the Lakers there. That's a tough number 7 seed, as we talked about. Life in the NBA. We forecasted this 4 weeks ago, in that some of the top seeds in the NBA would be looking down at really, really good playoff teams and saying, oh my God, we finished first, we finished second, and we get the Lakers with LeBron. That's exactly what happened. Timberwolves and the Suns in the 3-6 game, another great series. The Timberwolves are loaded with talent, young talent, and the Suns more of a mature, experienced process over there. I'm really excited to watch that as well. And some of those games will be late at night, so we'll get to see them nice and quiet in the house and ready to roll. Clippers and the Mavericks in the 4-5 game, another. I think the West matchups are really, really intriguing. I think that Luka and company could really give the Clippers a hard time, but I think the Clippers and the T-Wolves might be able to succeed there. I think that's a great setup for the NBA right now. Great setup. All right, Pete, we're going to jump into NCAA Fish, and we're going to talk a little bit about our coaching carousel right off the get-go. The reason we'd love to talk about the coaching carousel right now is because it spins very, very quickly, and then it comes to a complete halt. And now we're getting very, very close to the last ride of the year. I'm not out of the realm that we could not see some high-level retirement happen in the NCAA, but right now that hasn't shown. But a lot of times those retirements will come a little bit later than the firings do. Coaches get off, they have some time, they go to Florida, sit with the family, relax, think, evaluate, talk to all people that are interested, and then make decisions based on that. So I would not say that the carousel has stopped moving, because some of those retirements might be at the high level. Some of those retirements might be at the Power 5 level. So far, we've had 63 job changes, which is right now average, but very, very high. 63 out of 362 total. That's high. Changing hands. Now, that's not all people getting fired and losing their job. I don't want to create a bad impression.
That's people leaving and moving up, things like that.
It's the carousel.
Yeah.
Somebody getting on one horse and somebody else getting on another horse and somebody getting no horse at all. Okay, we're into the portal potty segment, Pete. Portal potty is out of control right now. One of the things this has done for college basketball, like I said, not everything is negative, not everything is positive. It's generally bicameral. It's generally a binary situation. And what's come out of the fact that they have the portal, and the portal now is exciting people with interest, especially people in the different fan bases that are hoping that they sign these new great players. It's created this whole other dimension to recruiting that now occupies social media when college basketball is no longer on. So it has done that for college basketball. It has, and football and other things. The portal has created this ongoing conversation that has now dripped in after the basketball season, and college basketball, where it would normally get very quiet, get really, really almost into a lull period right now, is still knocking away with the social media likes and all the other stuff that drives the bus these days. So that has been, that has been a significant factor of it. I will do that. I don't like it, but if anybody wants to follow somebody on Twitter, I'm going to give this person a shout out right now. It's a Bonaventure person. It goes under the hashtag of SBU Unfurled. That gentleman or female does a great, great job of doing the portal and analyzing it and really breaking it down. And I follow them on Twitter, and they're doing an unbelievable job. I wanted to give them a shout out. In the zone, again, prediction to prophecy, we called for 25% of the student body being in the portal right now, and we have now reached that critical mass of 25% of all student athletes in Division I and Division II men's basketball have entered into the portal. Is that number healthy, Pete?
No.
Not at all, I don't think. Here's what we will give you, and here's who. The rich are getting richer, and the poor are getting poorer, all right? 23 of the 40 commitments, somebody went into the portal, and then they found a new school, okay? 23 of the 40 went to Power 5 schools. They went up. 23 out of 40 went up. Now, these are the most coveted. These are the people who are getting NIL deals. These are the people with dollars attached to their signings. All right? They're getting to go up, and they're very coveted, and they're wanted right now. They're also in a position where they have leverage, and they can use their NIL to go and take these extra visits they have and create leverage by going to one school first, second school second, and then moving on to the third school and saying, these are the two offers that I have in hand right now. What can you do for me? And probably in addition to having a handful of other offers as well, probably not as significant as the ones that he took his visits to. The visits are no longer campus visits. Let's erase that from the terminology. They are no longer campus visits. They are on-site negotiations right now. They are on-site negotiations and contractual obligations being met there, okay? There's 12 out of the 40 are within the Power 5. So you're talking about 35 out of the 40 are in the Power 5. The rich are getting richer. The cash register is ringing. The dollars are flowing, okay? You got 4 out of the 40, went non-Power 5, 4 out of the 40. But that's a really, really mistelling statistic. And before I lay it out there without explanation, I wanted to explain why that's a little off, okay? It's a little bit off because there are, as we said, 2,500 student athletes in the portal right now. 2,500. We just named 40. They all got NIL deals. They all got taken care of. They're the 40 best. There's some of the 40 best in the portal right now. Now, there's still some really good players in the portal still. But at the line now, you're going to cap it at about maybe, what is a Power 5 going to absorb? 50, 60? Who knows? Who knows?
A conference, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
How many is each team going to absorb? How many? You're going to run out of
5,
scholarships
yeah.
too, right?
Yeah.
You're going to eventually run out of scholarships too. So here's some people that are in the portal now, and some of the people that have done this stuff. The first thing I wanted to mention was the old Kentucky home. All right. I don't know what happened with Calipari in Kentucky. All right. But I will say this: if you do aggravate, ire, and irk a person with the amount of ability and power as John Calipari, you better get ready for the fallout. And I'm not sure Kentucky was ready for this fallout. They hired a new coach, Mark Pope, who was the BYU coach. I liked watching his team this year. I think on a basketball level, that's a good hire. He played at Kentucky for Coach Pitino, so I think that he has the good bluegrass credentials that they would like to have. We'll see how he can be successful, but right now, Calipari is cleaning their program. He is absolutely cleaning. We talked last week, Pete. You said 4 out of 6. Well, he's on target for 4 out of 6 right there. And then we talked about all the players in the existing program that aren't going to turn pro. Dillingham, Shepard, they're probably going to turn pro. But the big Z, the guy they added in January, he's on his way to Fayetteville, Arkansas. They have Jerry Jones. They have other people out there backing this program right now and telling anybody that's out there, you have an offer, bring it, we'll double it. You have an offer, bring it, we'll increase it. Okay? Word on the street also is that Danny Hurley, to his credit, maybe not, that will be determined later on, but a lot of people would say to his credit, was offered $14 million to take the Kentucky job and turn them down. That's what I heard.
Wow.
Could be a rumor, and not sure it went all the way, but $14 million. Bill Self is the highest paid coach at Kansas right now. He makes in the a little bit over $9 million range. And so $14 million would have blown that number way, way out. And there would have been a whole lot of coaches licking their chops in between, because if they do anything good right now, you're going to fall somewhere between 14 and 9 million. And that's a nice spot to be. Okay, so who's still around in the portal, in the NCAA fish? Okay, Keenan Carlisle from Stanford, still available. Very good guard. Very good guard. Cliff Omoruyi. He probably should have stayed at Rutgers, I think, with the talent they have there. He could have been a really good piece for them. But I think this is, teams are running out of money. When they exhaust their money at a certain level, then they're running out of money for other players. When you're going at the top level and putting numbers together like that. Now, I was also told, and this was interesting, $2 million for Dickinson was way, way over the top. That number wasn't accurate. So you have two sources of income here. One is name, image, and likeness. Caitlin Clark just signed a great deal with a lot of people. State Farm, Gatorade, has a ton of different stuff. People were talking about her contract, but she just signed, again, another $10 million deal with another endorsement. And so those things are starting to flow and be good and all of that. But you also have a situation now where the schools are paying in the collective. And so there's those two different things at pace here. In your collective, you're going to run out of money. You're going to run out of distribution. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have to work on allotment. You're going to have to work on allocation. And it's a whole different game for some of these coaches. There's a whole different model here. There's a business model in here right now. And it's a little bit different. Okay, so Pete, let's run through, if we can. Let me just go through this one last piece here, and I have in the Feed 'em Fish for the NCAA. This is the impact of what happens if you have good athletics, good basketball team. Florida Gulf Coast a few years ago, they made a great run. They went all the way down. They increased their admission applications by 27.5%. That's huge. Huge. They went to the Sweet 16. They didn't even go to the Elite 8, Final Four. Sweet 16, tiny little school. Now, everybody wants to go to Florida, so I don't think that was a huge deal, but they did put them on the map. 27.5% increase in their applications. Butler, they nearly tripled after 2 Final Four appearances. They nearly tripled their applications after 2 Final Four appearances at Butler. Who was the coach of that Butler team? None other than Celtics general manager Brad Stevens. George Mason went on the great Cinderella run, beat Villanova, and increased 350% in their inquiries. 350% in their inquiries. All right? Here are some important dates for basketball fans. All right? We got important dates. NBA draft deadline is 4/27. It's approaching. The deadline to put your name in for the NBA draft is approaching. That's on the 27th. 5/1, thankfully, transfer portal deadline. TPD, transfer portal deadline, thankfully, May 1st. 5/11 is the G League Combine. That should be interesting this year. 5/13, I'm going to love it. It's the NBA Combine. That's it going on. And then you have 5/29 is your last day to withdraw from the draft. So you need to be in by 5/1, and you have X amount of time where you can withdraw without penalty and return to your team. This is another piece. I'm going to go prediction prophecy right here. This is another piece right now because the NCAA just came out and said, okay, we threw our hands up. You can transfer anytime, anywhere after 4 years. Doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want. We were wrong. We're out of it, okay? This is the second piece where they're going to be wrong. Okay? If somebody wants to put their name in for the draft and return to college, I don't know how much business of that is of the NCAA. And when they involve themselves in that, I think they involve themselves in restraint of trade. This is why they're getting their can kicked all over the street right now because of the stuff they've done, the malfeasance that they've done for years and years and years with these student athletes. That's why we're having this blowback right now. That's why we're having this pushback right now. If you want any culprit in this whole formula, NCAA for the last 50 years. Okay, those are the dates. Pete, can we jump into the Power 15, baby? NBA.
Before we do that,
yes, sir.
I got something for next week. I'll give you a little sneak preview.
Let's do it.
Take a look at that.
Wow. Portal potty. I love it. Whoa, Pete, that's fascinating.
Now we go to the 15. Since we've done so much talk about the portal potty,
It's not going to end.
I just kind of
It's
had
great. I love it.
I just had to bring that one in.
Pete, you're the absolute best, man. You could make me look good. And that's something amazing. That's amazing. All right. Boston Celtics, what a year. What a year they've had, and they're just fabulous. And right now they're playing good basketball. They haven't let up. We thought maybe at the end, 6 out of 7 home games, maybe they're going to turn the burners down a little bit, get some rest, and get ready for the playoffs. They did not. They did not. I credit Coach Mazzulla. Great job this year. He's our in-the-zone coach of the year, and he's done a great job with this team because they have really, really, I wouldn't say exceeded expectations, but they really had the throttle down the entire year. There was no big losing streaks. There was no big, well, what's going on over there? It was, okay, we lost a game, right back on it. They have a great senior-laden team, as we would say. They have some great experience in there, and they're young. Tatum and Brown have been playing together for a long time, and they're young. Porzingis is a great talent, and he's young. Jrue Holiday is a little more seasoned and has been through a lot of different NBA games, but he has some time left as well. OKC Thunder is our now close it out with the surprise team of the year. What a great year this team had. To finish number 1 in the Western Conference for OKC Thunder, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will get MVP consideration. A lot of people talking about him right now. And I thought, and we've talked about him all year, I thought he had an amazing year, but we went with Luka. I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander probably was in the consideration somewhere. So is Giannis. But I had Luka. Denver Nuggets finished 3rd. Strong finish for the Nuggets. If you remember, they started the season without Jamal Murray. It impacted things. They got a little rocky with their start. But then, as I thought we predicted, they would close strong, and they did a very, very good job closing. Second surprise team of the year, Minnesota Timberwolves. What a great standard they've had. And Anthony Edwards is a sensational talent that is going to be a generational talent in the NBA. They got some great young talent in the NBA. Bring Ja Morant back next year. And now talk about all that Celtic young talent. And now you're talking about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You're talking about Anthony Edwards. You're talking about some great talent that's right there, ready to go as this Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Steph Curry regime comes to a close.
Yeah.
All good things must end. Los Angeles Clippers 51-31. Watch this team in the playoffs. If they win the Western Conference, I will not be surprised. They've got great experience. They've got great players on the offensive side of the ball. Where I do question them a little bit is, can they defend? Are they going to be able to defend in a series enough to be able to sustain? But they can score the ball, and they're going to be tough. New York Knicks, I love it. They jumped into the number 2 seed, and as a reward for that, they drew the Philadelphia 76ers. They've won 5 games in a row, though, the Knicks. They're playing pretty well. And part of that is the return of OG Anunoby. They've been out injured. They will lose Randall for a while. But I don't think the Knicks were great with Randall. I don't think he participated in what they're trying to do on defense.
Okay.
And I think that's disruptive. And I think when you say that I don't play defense, what you're saying, you know what I hear? You don't like winning. That's what I hear when you say, well, I'm not really into defense. You know what that translates to me as a coach? You don't like winning that much. You're not that committed to winning. Because if you're committed to winning, you play hard on both sides of the basketball, fellas. You play hard on both sides of the court. No question about it. And every single time when we've watched Randall, we watched him on video here on the show just standing around on defense, doing absolutely nothing to be a part of the defensive effort of his team. I think that's disruptive. And I think right now the Knicks are better off without him right now in this playoff run. He's a very talented offensive player, no question about it. But Dallas Mavericks, Luka is our MVP, and I think they did a good job. 7, Kyrie Irving's playing at a very high level as well. They could get going. And he's the type of player that can really control a series. Now you're looking at a series as opposed to one game. It's easy to beat somebody one time. They come in your building, you got home court advantage, it's easy to beat them. I think what happens in a series is it becomes a little more arduous to get through all of what you got through in the regular season because they know all of your plays. They know all of your sets. They know all of your players. And so now it's much, much more familiar than it was when you played them in the beginning of the season. And now your offense is up against a much stiffer defense. Okay? Phoenix Suns, this is another team. I don't know that they have it up front, but they got a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball. You got Booker. You have Durant. We'll see what happens with Beal. All in all, I think that trade really hurt Phoenix this year, though. They should be looking sideways at their management team for that one. Milwaukee Bucks have fallen like a stone. Might have helped them, though, because they picked up the Pacers instead of the 76ers. I don't think they beat the 76ers. And right now, I'm not sure the way they're playing they're going to beat the Pacers. And this is why I looked at this in the middle of the year, and I said, wow, you replaced the coach. You took out Adrian Griffin when he was, having a decent year. They were winning. And you replaced him with Doc Rivers, who's been, let's just say he's been around the block a few times. I just don't know in all of that, because here's what has to happen. Doc Rivers isn't going to run Adrian Griffin's plays. Doc Rivers isn't going to run the same sets Adrian Griffin was running. He's not going to have the same practice approach. And so what you did in the middle of January 29th, okay, was you disrupted the entire organization to get rid of your coach when you thought it was implausible that you could keep him through the end of the year and then get rid of him. And then you have a whole new playbook, a whole new set of stuff. And that's what Dame Lillard and some of these guys are talking about. It's chaos now. And it has nothing to do with Doc Rivers. It has nothing to do with Adrian Griffin. It has to do with the people in the front office who don't know what they're doing.
Dirty, perky, shark, back, flat, important, Philip, bucket, Martin.
Something like that.
Right.
Something like that. New Orleans Pelicans, great year. Zion, I can hope they can play and get in the playoffs. I'd like to see them, and they got a good young team. He has a hamstring injury, so I don't know what that time frame is. It's not good, generally, hamstring. A hamstring injury is repetitive. A hamstring injury requires time.
That's a nagging injury, and you can't play through that.
And you can't tape it, right? You just can't tape it up and say, go ahead, especially with a player of Zion Williamson's caliber that relies on his strength, his athleticism, and his jumping ability as much as he does. You take out Zion Williamson's leg, it's a big deal. You take out Richie Sutter's leg, it ain't that big a deal because I can slog through because I never touch the bottom of the net. But you take out that on Zion, and it takes out a big piece of what and who he is.
Yep.
Philadelphia 76ers on the rise. They've won 8 in a row, 8-2 in their last, and they were 0-2. Joel Embiid came back, and boom, they took off like a rocket ship. 8 games in a row. And I think that they're going to present some problems in the playoffs. That's going to be a great series. The Lakers are rising. Lakers are playing pretty good basketball. A lot of it has to do with LeBron James. His numbers are ridiculous lately. He just keeps setting records. He doesn't seem to age in terms of his game. I can't tell you, and I'll say this honestly, that I've seen a whole lot of marked difference between the first day he stepped in the league and to him right now physically. I don't see any diminishment. He's like Superman. The guy has unbelievable longevity and has been able to do it at a really, really high level for a really, really long time.
That reminds me of some of the wrestlers out there that go into their 40s and 50s.
It's
you know what I mean?
The way he is and the way, like taking charges the other night. I mean, That's impressive.
Yeah.
It's really impressive. The Orlando Magic, Indiana Pacers, and Cleveland Cavaliers close out the last group there, 47-35 for the Magic. Pretty good. Pacers survived that Halliburton injury in the middle, and they've responded. And the Cavaliers are the biggest drop of any team we have in the 15 right now. I don't know what's going on over there. They're talking about trades. They're talking about Donovan Mitchell, their number one player, being unhappy, and he wants to go here, he wants to go there. He wants to get into one of those marquee places where you can play and play for a championship. I wouldn't be surprised to see him wind up in one of those arenas soon. But the hot teams right now are the 76ers. They've won 8 in a row. The Knicks have won 5 in a row, and the Thunder have won 5 in a row. In the not hot segment, we have the Hawks, losers of 6 in a row. That goes to 7 because they lost last night. The Blazers 5, the Grizz 5, and the Wizards closed the year as they started it, losing. Okay, Pete, up into our Super 25. We're going to close right now with you, with everybody, with our Super 25 of basketball NCAA. Final of the year. This will not change. The UConn Huskies are howling. If you want to get into it, I came in today. I had a nice Bruno Mars song on there. If you don't believe me, just watch. Danny Hurley says, you want to see me repeat? Don't believe me, just watch. And they did. Connecticut, 37-3. And, again, made a tough tournament look easy.
That was an impressive run in that tournament.
I
watched a lot of their games.
Boom.
And that was impressive.
He's coaching like his dad. When they get into a playoff situation, they're just going to be ready. And he's done a great job. Turned down $14 million from Kentucky. Whew. That's amazing. Purdue, that's $14 million every year.
Right.
I wish somebody would give me $14 million for the rest of my time. And then I could hang around a while, but $14 million per year. Purdue, Coach Painter, Zach Edey, our National Player of the Year, probably a 2-time Wooden Award winner. I assume he'll be a Wooden Award winner again. 34-5, he was our Player of the Year. We have him in our top 5, folks, in the NBA lottery. Okay? I know that's going to be met with a lot of derision. I know that's going to be met with a lot of protagonism. But I'm going to tell you right now, he's 7'4", 255 pounds. He has room to grow his frame. He moves well. He catches well. He dunks everything. Going to be a good NBA player, folks. NBA general managers right now. I'm not saying he's a Victor Wembanyama generational player, but he's pretty good. I think you're sleeping on him. Houston, we don't have a problem in the number 3 spot. They're doing great things over there with Kelvin Sampson, and you know why, because you listen to him speak. He speaks with conviction about what he wants in a player. He speaks in conviction about how they have to fit in to what Houston's program and culture is all about. And I think that's one of the really, really mistakes that coaches make these days, is that they don't hold the line on culture. You know this guy's talented. You know he's mercurial, but you know he's not good for your culture. You know he's going to be a locker room lawyer. And it's not going to be good for your team. And that's sometimes what you have, and it saddens me. But that's where coaches that don't have a lot of experience are going to break. Kelvin Sampson's been around the block, knows exactly what he wants. And I guarantee you, Houston Cougar fans, you're flying into rarefied air. You had Phi Slamma Jamma and some great teams over the time. But this is duration. This is longevity. And Houston will be right back next year. They will be absolutely right back next year. What we did was when we gave our awards, we had National Player of the Year was Zach Edey. Coach of the Year was Danny Hurley. Rookie of the Year was Reed Sheppard from Kentucky, who had a fabulous year. Fabulous year. I wanted to add one more award in here today that we didn't include last week. And when I went over Houston, I said, man, we got to include this guy. We have a JYD award now, Pete. And it's called the Junkyard Dog Award. The Junkyard Dog of NCAA college basketball, none other than Jamal Sheed from the University of Houston. You got to go into a foxhole, you go in with Jamal Sheed. You got to go into a 2-team tag match, you go in with Jamal Sheed. You got to try and make a run into the NCAA tournament, you go with Jamal Sheed. North Carolina, number 4, Pete. Ain't nothing finer than North Carolina in the 4 spot. Great season for Hubert Davis.
Absolutely.
I think they would be a little bit perturbed about their underperformance in the NCAA tournament. because I think they should be in the Final Four every single year, and they do. But I just thought they had a great year. 4 spot. Number 5, Iowa State. I like the Cyclones all year long. They did not disappoint. They did not disappoint. They kept it going all the way through the season, all the way down. They were the Big 12 champions. They annihilated Houston in the Big 12 championship, made a great, great run, and I think they're going to be back. I think they're going to have some consistency in that program. TJ Otzenberger did not go into the carousel, stayed right where he was, and instead started watching the portal and seeing what players they can grab up for next year. Tennessee, number 6, Rick Barnes. I like this guy. He's a great coach. He does a great job. Tennessee is in rarefied air. They're known as a football school, and they're doing a great job in Tennessee right now. I personally, as a coach, I like watching his team play. I respect what they do on both sides of the ball. Duke, number 7, 27-9. Coach Shire, I would have maybe lowered them a little bit because I thought they had a disappointing regular season. But they made a good run in the playoffs. That's what they're supposed to do. Made a good run in the playoffs. Again, there's another team that thinks they belong in the Final Four every single year. Illinois, they had the midseason bump with Terrence Shannon Jr., being out a few games that bumped them up a little bit. They held on strong. Great year. Great year for Illinois. These are programs that are football schools, and now you're seeing them emerge as great basketball schools as well. That's a credit to their coaches because they don't always get the top players, that Kentucky and Kansas and Duke and North Carolina are getting at Illinois. They just don't. And so when you see Illinois be able to keep that success, like Brad Brownell at Clemson and some of the other coaches here, keep that success over years. This is where I say these coaches, they're saying, oh, he's on the hot seat. So you might want to think long and hard about that because he's doing a pretty good job with what he has. All right, Auburn, number 9, and a good season for them and good news for them. Johnny Broome has decided to take his name out of the portal and return to Auburn next year. That gives Bruce Pearl a really, really big lift for his program. In the Zone had Johnny Broome in our first round. And so to see him return, I think might do a little bit of what happened with Jerron Holmes, who returned to Dayton, might improve his draft position a little bit by going back there. But the NIL has alleviated some of the concern of these young men because now he's making $1 million to stay around. And the NBA contracts for rookies are capped, so it's not that big of a differential to go back and stay. I think we saw that with Zach Edey last year. All right, we're going to Arizona. Arizona had a great year. I think they, took a great extension on their coach, gave a really good look into the future. Right now, West Coast basketball, for whatever reason, USC's fallen off, UCLA's fallen off, some of the other teams have fallen off, and right now you've got Arizona out there by themselves, and so we'll see if they take advantage of that in recruiting, in NIL, and really start to distance themselves from the rest of the Western Coast out there. Gonzaga and St. Mary's are actually better in their depth right now and in where they are in their program than UCLA and USC, which is a little bit unheard of in college basketball. As you see, the portal and the NIL kind of turn this snow globe upside down. And we got all sorts of stuff going on out there that I think might have been the law of unexpected consequences here a little bit. All right, so we go to Creighton. I like Coach McDermott. I think he does a great job. Kalkbrenner, Alexander, probably, I don't know about Kalkbrenner in the first round, but he's going to get drafted. And Trey Alexander, I think we would have him in our first round, maybe even into our top 20 picks. I think he's probably one of the best lead guards available out there to the NBA people. So I think they get at least 2. Baylor Scheinman could also get into that mix as well. He's an elite shooter and a really good, solid player, could fit into an NBA program somewhere, much like some of the other great shooters out there, just kind of finding that niche as a three-baller. Alabama, I had them at 12th. They were 25-12, a disappointing regular season, but when you make the Final Four, we got to take notice of that. We included everything in this poll. We included their regular season performance. We included the cannolis that they devoured. We included the home-away disparities that they had. We included everything in this poll, and making it to the Final Four from where they were, I think is really, really good accomplishment on their part. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you got Gonzaga and St. Mary's huddled up here in 13 and 14. A great season for both of them. Mark Few, there are few like Mark Few. He has had an elite level at Gonzaga has maintained that elite level, and he didn't go anywhere, despite the fact that a lot of people came knocking on his door. I thought he might wind up in Kentucky, but they went for Pope instead. They would have been better off if they had sat down with Mark Few, I think. St. Mary's, 26-8, great season. Aiden Mahaney's one of their great guards is in the portal, though, and that's, it's just disappointing to watch some of these young men who won't have any chance to set school records anymore. That's one of the things that's going to be the deleterious impact of this. There's no more school records going to be broken anymore. How can you break a school record when you're in 4 schools in 4 years?
Right.
You can't do it. How can you become the all-time leading scorer? We were just happy at Westfield to have a 1,000-point and 1,000-rebound player. Those things are things of the past now, and it's saddening. Marquette, Shaka, great season. They have a lot of talent on that team. Tyler Kolek is a draftable player. Certainly. Iso Agodora, the big man, if he comes back, I think it might not hurt him to come back and get another year of seasoning, but I would have him probably in the top 15, top 20 of our draft board. He's got a huge amount of potential, massive amount of potential. And they have some other, great pieces there, but they have at least 2 or 3 guys that are going to get drafted off that Marquette team. Baylor, I guess Kentucky tried to do what they could to get Coach Drew to jump on a plane and come out there. He stayed at Baylor, very, very much a family man, and is entrenched with his whole community out there in a lot of different ways. And I was excited to see him stay there because they're doing great things at Baylor, and they got it going on. Clemson, I moved them up. They didn't have a great number, 24-12, and so you don't look at that as a great top 25 number. But they had a great run into the NCAA tournament as well. Brad Brownell had that team playing sharp, playing good basketball, and they're in a really, really tough conference. They emerged from that conference battle-tested, and they did the ACC proud in the tournament as well. And here's right after that, if you mention Clemson, you got to mention the big fella Cinderella, NC State, DJ Burns, DJ Horn. They had 2 DJs in the house, and the music was blasting. They went to the Final Four. They're listed number 45 in KenPom right now. This is where the algorithm fails. This is where the algorithm hits the deck. They're in the 45 in KenPom right now, and they were in the Final Four. Okay, Indiana State. They have big Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Robbie Avila. He's in the portal as well. I'm not sure about him as a pro, but I'd like to see him in the combine and see. He's big. He's got a lot of space to him. He eats up a lot of space, but I just don't know about him in the NBA game because the NBA game's down to 9 seconds per possession right now. 9 per possession. So you got to be fast and be able to get up and down the floor. I'm not sure that suits his skill set really well. How much time we got left, Pete?
You have about almost 10 minutes.
Oh, beautiful.
Got some time.
Beautiful. I was nervous. I thought we were going to run out of time.
Yeah, we started a little late.
So Indiana State 32-7, great job. Their coach left and took the St. Louis job. I think that's going to help the Atlantic 10, going to bolster that. I was a little surprised to see him jump from Indiana State to St. Louis, but that seemed like a little bit of a lateral move, but he takes Travis Ford's spot there. Seton Hall, I have them 25-12. They got knocked up in the Big East all over the place. They had some great wins, though. They beat one of the last teams to beat UConn. They had some great wins. Creighton and Seton Hall were 2 teams that were able to eclipse UConn this year, so those are great wins. But I wanted to put them in my top 25 for the simple fact that there were a bunch of teams that turned down the NIT, and Shaw Holloway took his team into the NIT and took it into the NIT and did some amazing work there, got their team ready for next year. And I thought I saw on Twitter today that Kadari Richmond, their star elite player, is coming back for another year. So that's huge for Shaw Holloway. Might have had a lot to do with him saying no to a lot of job offers that I'm sure he had as well. 21, South Carolina, this team had an unbelievable year. A little bit of a disappointment in the NCAA tournament, but they had an unbelievable year. 26-8. They're in the Big 12, which is the big dog of the big conferences. I think they had an unbelievable year. And Lamont, Coach Paris, they just did a great job. Just did a great job, kind of under the radar. Another under the radar team that I threw in here, Drake. They had a good run. Their coach just left for West Virginia. He reaped the reward, rode the carousel all the way up to Morgantown. 28-7 will do that. San Diego State, pretty good year, 26-11. Did a really, really deep run into the tournament again. Excuse me. Only got eclipsed by UConn. They were on a really good run in the NCAA tournament.
State was a
and
good,
they got bumped by UConn.
Yep.
You know, no shame in that.
No.
Steve Alford's team was great this year, 26-8, under the radar because they're out on the West Coast. I like Steve Alford's approach. They're at Nevada, 26-8. I have them in the 24 spot. All right, Pete, here's where I broke with tradition a little bit. Okay?
You couldn't just make it 25, could you?
I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it because I got there and I put the 25 down, but then I said, "Oh, wait a second. We gotta duel this up. We gotta go binary equation here." And I'm going to explain to the fans why. I understand if you don't like it, but I'm just going to give you my motivations for this. Long Beach State George Costanza Award goes out to Dan Monson. They fired him before his team got into the tournament, and Bobby Smitherin is the AD out there, and he has the gall, the audacity to come out and say publicly after this whole thing went on is, "I wanted to motivate the team by firing their coach in the middle of the season."
What kind of bleep is that?
I think they should change his name to Smithereen because he just got blown to smithereens in his whole thing. His coach goes into the NCAA tournament, becomes the NCAA version of George Costanza, a guy coaching without a job. The media, print, television, everybody falls in love with this guy. And if you're Smitherin, you're sitting in your television at home going, no, you're just watching your whole life fall apart. And I'm going 21-15. I'm putting them in. Dan Monson, great job. And I'm pretty sure Coach Monson wound up somewhere else, got another job. But I wanted to include Keith Dembrot here because he did the Dave DeBuscher perfect, going out on top. It was many, many years for Duquesne to get back into the tournament. They did, and they went in fashion and wound up winning the game. So I wanted to give them a shout-out to 25-12. The In the Zone awards we gave out and ready to go. Here's what I talked about with the Lakers a little bit. I'm going to give a shout-out to Jeannie Buss, who's the Lakers owner. I want to just say it again. Going into the playoffs, move LeBron James to the point. Move LeBron James and have the ball in his hands all the time. And I'm going to tell you a quick little story, Jeannie, and I'm going to take you back, and I know you were there, so you're going to remember this. But for an 11-game sprint during the Bulls season one time, Michael Jordan convinced Phil Jackson to put him on the point. They had some injuries. They had some different stuff moving around. They had Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was from Thriller. But this was a thriller for the Bulls fans because they put Jordan on the point. And I would have done that like his whole career because I want him to have the ball. He's the best player in the game. I don't want somebody else holding the ball. I want him holding the ball. I want him making all the decisions because I think he's the big iMac computer. His brain processes the information purely, completely, and quickly like other people while they're out there buffering, okay? So I just wanted to go through this. 33.6 points. It didn't diminish his scoring at all during this 11-game stretch. 11.4 assists per game. 10.8 rebounds, 2.9 steals, 3.4 turnovers, a little bit high there, but he shot 51% from the floor. And of the 11 games, 10 of them were triple doubles. So this is what I say to the Lakers right now.
That's called
facts. If you want to have a really, really good chance to advance, if you want to have a really good chance to move in the playoffs, put the ball in LeBron's hands the entire time. Make him the point. It will allow you to run a bigger lineup. It will allow you to get Rui Hachimura into the game more because he's an exciting player as well. And then it gives your number one player full control out of everything that's going on the floor. All right. We're going to close today with a little bit of a note of memory, a little memoriam. The people at Westfield State and surrounding areas have absolutely just received terrible, terrible news. And it was regarding our football coach's family, the Kowalski family. And I don't want to get into all of what occurred and what happened because it's just very, very devastating. But Melissa Kowalski was an absolutely beautiful, beautiful person. Played basketball at Northeastern. And Sean James was her husband, also was a star at Northeastern, a great, great basketball player out of Brooklyn. And just the entire family unit is very, very much what I would refer to as my family as well. And it is absolutely devastating what has occurred. And the loss is just something that we will not be able to get over at any time in the near future. It's an absolutely devastating loss for the world because Melissa Kowalski was an absolute angel. And now I can tell you that she's amongst the angels. She's with her angels. And it's just saddening to me that we have to go to people and console them and have words when I just feel so inadequate and inept as a person to say anything that could provide any comfort or anything at this time. The only reason that I wanted to bring it up today was maybe to help myself feel better about it, but also just to say that sometimes if we just remember and we practice remembrance, it'll get us through the darkest of our days. And sometimes when we stick together as a team and we stay together with everything that we got, and then in the end of it, we can still stand there and practice remembrance and practice the love and everything that was embodied with Melissa Kowalski, her beautiful 4 children, her family right now. We just are heartbroken and we are heartsick, and we do not have adequate words, but we did want to just make mention of what a beautiful, beautiful soul that she was, and an incredibly, incredibly talented person, and had an incredible, incredible life with people who loved and adored her. But the rest of us that get to go on, and the rest of us that get to live, when we watch this and happens to some of our family and some of the people around us, we have to pick our game up. We have to get better. We have to be better. And I say that to everybody right now, that we need to lift our game up and we need to be more representative of those that we lost, because this time that we find ourselves in is a difficult time. But there's an old proverb that says, if everybody in the world could put their problems into one pile, you would gladly go up and take yours back. And I say this to all of us right now in this moment. This should mean something. We should raise our level. We should get better, because then it means something. Then it stands for something. We're in the zone. We'll see you next week.